Hi everyone. There's something that I really want to share with you. You might have seen a few posts coming by on my social media recently, and they were just basically screen captures of my TV, me watching, and it was like something from Tony Robbins and Les Brown. In my opinion, one of these guys are part of the greatest speakers of all times, and really taking us into parts of ourselves and where we can investigate and become better versions of ourselves. And that topic is very interesting because like we're right in the middle of it, and it always refers to one thing, and that's called fear. And at least for these interviews that I've watched, so therefore I want to really talk to you about this and invite you to think about this for a second, and because the world it's right now at a place where you know what, it's not good. It's not good because there's a lot of negativity, there's a lot of sickness, there's a lot of disease, there's a lot of discomfort, a lot of this a lot and we want to make it a better community, we want to make it a better place and a better world. Therefore, if we want to achieve that, we need first to become better people as individuals, and that's basically the responsibility of each one of us, is to take that responsibility. And it always has two sides. Like, you know, when you're responsible, I mean, that's shit because like you feel responsible for whatever happens and you're kind of part of whatever. And like, you know, I take my car and I could put gas in, so I contribute to pollution and everything. But the other side of responsibility is like I can change it. So, you know what, if I want to, you know, for example, you take food, it's like all the food that you eat today are the pounds and the kilos that you're going to gain tomorrow. Fact. So if you decide what you're going to put in your plate today, determines what's going to happen tomorrow. So, but if you find reasons and excuses why you shouldn't be doing this because of change happening, and change is basically something that's very uncomfortable. The subconscious hates change. Even if it's uncomfortable, it will prefer to stay what is known. That's like our, I can't even call it comfort zone, because a comfort zone is like where you feel well, and most of the time in our comfort zone we don't even feel that well, because that's usually if we get sick or we get unwell or we feel depressed or feel anxious or feel, you know, that comfort zone is basically what causes our discomfort. So, you know, I would mostly relate to our discomfort zone. And someone who hasn't failed hasn't tried anything new. So you stay in this stagnating, like that circle, that vicious circle, you're that never-ending thing, but it's comfortable. It's kind of, you know it, so it's kind of okay. But in that kind of okay, there will never take place. There's not a space for your dreams, and if you want to reach your dreams, you really need to step out of that circle. So you need to get out of that stagnating thing. Even like it can be like a job, it can be like friends, it can be like a personal, something personal, it can be a relationship, it can be, you know what, not taking a decision and finding all the excuses to not make that step, because making that step takes you out of that discomfort zone, so comfort zone, and that will take you to a new place. But at that new place is unknown, and so that unknown is something that's very, yeah, it's uncomfortable, and therefore that discomfort is not reassuring. It's very insecure, and the brain doesn't like that. Like our very primal brain, is designed not to be happy. It's designed for survival. So that's what it wants. And if you can find your happiness, great. But happiness is something that's very different to every single one of us. We will define happiness in very different ways. But the way to achieve it, that's what we can call success. So that success in the way we find our way towards happiness, that's something that is a recipe. That's something that can be reproduced. But that really, the first thing you come across to make that step to get out of that, comfort zone, that is basically the cause of your discomforts and your ailments and your pains and your whatever it is negative. You need to get out of that to make that first step. And I love this analogy, and like fear. It says we call this like false evidence appearing real. So again, remember that time where you were standing when you were a kid and you're standing in front of the classroom and you've been studying on that, a text or a presentation or whatever it was, and you know it inside out. You've been studying it and you've been working your ass off on it, and now you need to share it to your friends. But the first thing the first thing that comes to your mind is like your heart starts to beat and you start to breathe faster, and suddenly you come like sometimes blackouts, or most of us don't feel very comfortable. Like they're like people who are really gifted and like love to speak in public. But like most of us, like, are we face that fear, and that fear of, being judged, of being rejected, of being misunderstood, of being, being basically not good enough. And we all have this in different degrees, like that fear being not good enough in something or at something. And therefore, this is exactly what stops us from making that first step towards our dreams, our goals. And we do this, like, as individuals, we let that happen. And so I really invite you to really look into this and listen to that inner voice and that inner conversation that is going on from that moment that you need to do something and you really have that goal set. You want to make that first step. And what happens in your head? What are the excuses that you find? That's something that needs to change. That's like that rewiring process, and that those patterns that need to change, because those patterns are basically uh, why you are at where you're at. And I love this thing where it says, you know what, if you want to have something you never had, you need to do something you never did. And what follows is like, if you do what you always did, you'll get what you always got. So we're back in that circle, and we need to get that flowing. We need to break that circle and move forward. And how often do we think like, yeah, you know what, but if I take a risk and you don't know what's going to happen, and it's like, of course you don't know what's going to happen. Nobody knows what's going to happen. And the future, we cannot. What I mean by that is, don't take any unnecessary risk. Like, you just like, let's just like invest like I don't know, 1 million into something, into a company. I don't know. No, don't do that. That's a bad idea. But you don't know what the outcome will be of the future, because so many things are not in our own hands and we don't control what's going to happen. But we can only follow what's inside here. And what we have inside here is very often blocked what we have inside here. And this is a product of basically education, society, culture, religion, and these things. We have the absolute power to change them, to rewire them in a way that they are more functional, that they serve us instead of costing us our happiness, or costing us or preventing us from reaching our goals and having living our dreams. And I love that speech that was given from Denzel Washington to the Harvard University. And he said, again, was about that, always wanting to play it safe, play it secure, and something that you fall back onto. And there's like, no, you don't want to fall back onto anything. It's like, when you fall forward. You make sure that when you fall forward, and you want to make sure that in that fall, you come closer to your goal. And that failure got you one step closer. You will fail your way into success. And that's like one of the guarantees that you have, is that you will fail. You will suck at something. At some point of your life, you will suck at something. But that doesn't matter, because that is exactly what will take you to the next level, to learn, to build experience, to get closer to your goal, and to feel more confident in what you're doing. So building confidence, building more self-esteem and self-respect, self-love is that solution that is slowly going to dissolve the fear. If you know who you are, if you know what you're capable of, if you know what you're made of, if you know how determined you are, and if you have that, what the value of all of these things, that's so much stuff that outweighs, that it will outperform fear from far. And you know what? Fear is something that's absolutely natural, because fear is part of survival. And that is how I said, like, your brain is designed for survival. So fear is part of it. You fear something, you run for your life, you protect yourself, you basically extend your lifespan because you have fear. And so when fear is triggered, that stimulates a whole lot of processes in your body, and you react to it. We're evoluted human beings, and we know what to do and when we can identify fear. So once we identify fear, we can rationalize. We can use our neocortex, which is like the evoluted part of the brain, like that it grows, that is around the limbic system, that like the mammal brain, that's like, again, that one around the reptilian brain, like the primal brain. And we can use that part of that, like that neocortex, to calm down that fear. It's like, really, is there really a lion chasing me? Is it really that bad? And I was like, actually, no, it's not that bad. and my life is not at at risk. So all things considered, we can move forward, we can move on. And so I really invite you to constantly ask yourself, because you're not going to do me a favor, you're going to do yourself a big favor, because you're going to get one step closer to what is really good for you, and you will get closer to the best version of yourself. But that requires you to focus, to put your focus every day on what your goal is, and to understand and to realize everything that will undermine and every thought that you have that stops you from making that step forward. And to make this video, I can find a million reasons to say like, you know what, how many times are you gonna fail? How many times do you have to record it again? And what will people think about my video? And what will, how are they gonna judge me? And you know what, you can't please everyone on this planet. So you'll have to make choices. And some people will point fingers at you, but you know what does it matter? If you are happy, you haven't disrespected anyone, and you try to do your best to make it a better place, that's the only thing that matters. So again, I invite you to, in a day, the morning you start, you get up. It's like, what's your focus? What is it really that you want? And what are you really going to do to contribute to getting closer to that dream? If you need to write it out, write for yourself, write it out. What's your definition of happiness? In a personal way, in a professional way, in a family, in a spiritual way. Same thing for success. What is success on a personal level? What is success on a professional level? What is success in a spiritual level? And what is success on like your personal level? And define that. As long as you haven't defined anything, you don't know where you're going. If you have a goal, it's like, I'll give you a bow and an arrow, I'll give you like a gun. It's like an incredibly strong weapon. But if you're not aiming for a target, and you can shoot all you want, nothing's going to happen. Eventually you're going to cause a lot of damage. That's what's going to happen. So that unused potential, as long as you don't focus that, and I love that saying, it's like, where focus goes, energy flows. And that's exactly where you need to look at. If you look at something that is feeding your fear, you're just going to get more fear. So again, like, stop listening to the radio, stop watching TV, stop watching, like, listening to the news and all that stuff, because that basically, like, negative information coming to you. Somebody is bringing negative information into your life. You don't want that. Nobody needs to bring bad information or bad news into your life. So we need more positive, like more potential, more inspiration, more to get to the higher level of ourselves, to become that better version, and where we are more functional in the way we are, in the way we operate, in the way we think, in the way we act. And therefore we need to break patterns. But as long as we don't change, we don't make a step, we will never get there. We'll always stay in that kind of discomfort zone. So again, if you need to write it out, and once you've been writing out what's your happiness, what's your definition of happiness, what's your definition of success, then you can tell yourself, okay, what is it that I'm doing every day to get closer to it? If you don't know anything that will get you closer to that, I suggest you really start thinking about it. And then you can write down on the same paper, what am I doing that goes against reaching my goal? What am I doing each day that prevents me from reaching my dreams? And as long as you haven't identified them, it will be very difficult for you to change them. And I hope this helps you, because if we can operate like this, and on each one of us as individuals, we take the responsibility to function at 150% of what we can be, and get rid of all that nasty stuff, all that acquired, all that learned dysfunctional behavior, and all those fears that were basically passed on from generation to generations, and also because of the culture, because you know what, your father did that, and your grandfather did that, and the generation, therefore you shall also do the same. And you're like, oh no, screw this, I don't want to do any of that. But if you're not willing to step up for yourself and show up, then you're not going to be able to be really what you're meant to be. And you will just be someone else. You'll just pretend. Again, you'll play a role. And what happens when you play a role? You play a role, and that role is not you, but therefore that role will attract people that are on the same level. So you will interact with people that are basically not meant for you. They're meant for the person or that image that you're playing. And again, the energy is not right. and you get into conflict, and you get into a situation you're not meant to be, because you are doing things for the wrong reasons. Therefore you'll attract the wrong things and the wrong people, and you don't need any of that. That's just a waste of time and energy. But if you need to do it, do so. But that will, slowly reinforce, I hope, the motivation and the reasons and the understanding that you need to do what is good for you, and it doesn't matter if it's not what was wished for you, what your parents thought you would do, or what your teachers wanted you to do, or who or your grandparents wanted you to become. All of that is not important. What important is like what you want to do and what makes you happy. If you're a happy person, this world is a better place. So thank you for watching, and share this if you like it. Hit the button for subscription, and you'll get more videos if you enjoy it. And if you don't subscribe.